What's up, everybody? Welcome back into episode of The Lawyer You Know. Donna, Adelson, day 5. We get undercover tapes and wiretaps throughout the entire day today. So we really get to know the relationship between Sigfredo to Katie to Charlie to Donna. Are they all involved in the conspiracy? Is the state going to try to lessen the blow or get out ahead of what we think the defense might be, or at least part of the defense? You better believe it. And what I think the jury's thinking as they listen to these tapes, because I think this is some of the most important evidence they're going to have in the entire trial. It may seem laborious, it may seem boring at times, but I think as the jury's hearing this for the first time and reading it, there is some jaw-dropping stuff and some really telling conversations happen undercover, recorded for the jury to hear the defendant and the co-conspirators' own words with their own mouths, which is always what damns people. So make sure you guys hit that like button. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button so you can stick around and come talk this case with us for the entirety of the trial. Let's get into it. So yes, there's still a lot of evidence to come. And yes, this isn't going to jump out on the page for people that have watched other trials. But if this is the first experience you've had with the Adelsons, tell me what your thoughts were when you heard these undercover tapes. That's number one. Number two, for everybody, new or old, and I don't mean age, I mean to the Adelson case, to the Markel case, right? Whether this is your first experience or you've been experiencing it for 11 plus years, it's been going on. What to you in these tapes was the most shocking, the most damning, the comments you want to highlight? Put them in the comments. I'm going to read some of what you guys thought was the most damning, because you guys are better at your initial reactions when you hear these things, what it makes you think as far as the crime, right? Because you are lay people, the most of you, a lot of you are lawyers as well, but most of you are lay people. Most of you could end up on juries in whatever jurisdiction you live in. So I love to hear what you think when something like this plays, because I will tell you, if you remember back to jury selection, and I always say it's the most important part of a trial, a lot of people were shocked at how different it is in Florida than some other scenarios that you may have heard it in. By the way, we're going to start at the beginning of the day today. But jury selection, I always say it's one of my favorite parts of the trial, and it is the most important part of trial. And one of the reasons for that is I take a lot of notes, but also a ton of mental notes. And I'm usually the one doing it, talking to the jury. So I don't like to take a bunch of notes or look down a bunch while I'm talking to the jury. I like for it to be conversational, and I'll have whoever's trying the case with me and my client take a ton of notes. And here's why. If you remember back to jury selection in this case, there were some jurors that said, I expect to see financial records. I expect to see conversations connecting these co-conspirators together. And almost one of the most important things I heard was, they wouldn't be sitting there in the defendant's chair if they weren't probably guilty. And then he backed off a little bit and said, if there wasn't a lot of evidence against her, they wouldn't have prosecuted her for this many years. They wouldn't have put this many resources behind it. They wouldn't have arrested her. She wouldn't be sitting there if she wasn't probably guilty. They didn't necessarily use those words, but that's what she was thinking. So if we kick that up a notch, not just is she sitting there after all these years, not just was she arrested, not just was she prosecuted, but they got wiretaps and undercover videos and recordings and bumps and FBI agents involved to investigate Donna Adelson and her co-conspirators. So to me, this is another step up. And if I'm the state, I'm pouring that on. Look at the investigation that was done here. They know it's her. They want to catch her. They want her to admit it. And this is how they do it, with this bump. And I think that any juror that agreed with what that potential juror said, they're thinking the same thing. And the fact that these wiretaps exist, I'll tell you, the vast majority of cases that I've worked that have wiretaps or undercover informants that record the audio of our clients, the vast majority end in a plea deal or a guilty verdict. It is the minority of cases where all this is done and you still go and you still win. as a defendant. Now, sometimes you can still make a good deal and things like that, but it's this type of evidence is usually incredibly damning because they only do it on certain cases. And then the way it's presented with the FBI usually looks a lot like it looks in this case. All right. So we are going to start off, though, with an issue for the state, right? There's going to be a lot of good that the state does on today, in today's video, but we're going to start with another misstep from the state. And unfortunately, we missed the first part of the defense's argument, but there's about a 5-minute evidentiary argument at the beginning of the case today. And guess what? It is another discovery violation by the state. Dizzy said, please don't make us listen to the calls. So we're not going to listen to the majority of them. I am going to play a couple clips, a couple chunks to give you the vibe and the idea. And then I'm going to talk about, as a lawyer, how I would use this and what I think they're trying to prove and point out or disprove. And then again, I want to hear what you guys think and what your favorite quotes were from a lot of the clips that we heard. So first, let's start out with this evidentiary argument that started court today.
Either one, essentially that there were no photos. Obviously, standard operating procedure is to photograph when executing a search warrant. So I need more time to go through those. I believe that witness is tomorrow.
Yes.
So my intent would be to go through those in more detail, and tomorrow morning I'll be able to address any Richardson issues.
All right.
Tomorrow he's going to address Richardson issues. Richardson issues are discovery violation issues. Was it intentional or not? The judge is not happy about this.
Well, it does raise somewhat of an interesting issue in that way. Part of the inquiry is the prejudicial effect on your ability to prepare for trial. With having the opportunity to review this evidence, obviously that will mitigate some of that effect. You do not want me to go through the inquiry now.
Just a moment, Your Honor. I can't stand here before the court and say there's not prejudice. It might actually be beneficial. Until I have a chance to go through them, I'm not going to be able to answer them.
All right, concerning the recording, so that way we have a clean record on this topic. And the basis of having this inquiry at this point would be both based on the appellate precedents before the Supreme Court and the DCA courts. I believe Landry versus State specifically holds even a possible discovery violation triggers the requirement to conduct a Richardson hearing, as the inquiry is intended to flesh out whether there has been a discovery violation. Concerning the recording that was made by, what was the witness's name again?
The recording.
Was it McElveen?
Yes, Your Honor.
As Mr. McElveen's recording or any audio forensic or enhancement work that he did to make it clear, Ms. Kappelman, one version of the recording was provided, but not the second version, which he later provided to the defense.
That's correct.
So as to the...
So one version of the recording was given, but not the other. And what the judge is trying to figure out is this intentional? Is it a big deal? Is it material? Is it prejudicial? Darlene said, can these be a mistrial? Can there be a mistrial with all these violations? So the answer is yes, there can be, but only if they're material and prejudicial. And in this case, as I'm listening to this, I'm like, just make them play the old recordings. If you're the defense and they turned over the old ones, but not the enhanced ones that are even better, make them play the old ones. And guess what? Even though these violations are coming, the prosecutor, again, I think does the right thing. And she proposes that compromise. Literally what I'm thinking. So I was like, this is great. So while there are these violations, stuff like this is going to happen in trial. It shouldn't, but it does. This is how you deal with them. This is how you handle them.
Enhanced version, or in some way what Mr. McElveen has worked on, that was not provided. There has been a discovery violation as to that aspect. However, the item was known to the defense as to the original state of the recording. Ms. Kappelman, what were the circumstances of not providing the enhanced version of the audio?
Oh gosh. Apparently I requested that work be done prior to Ms. Adelson's previously scheduled trial with previous counsel. I do not recall doing that, but it seems I did or someone on my team did. It was discovered in the envelope from Mr. McElveen during preparation for this trial and believed to be the attempt to clarify the meeting between the defendant and her son at the pier that we've talked about in the testimony yesterday that was unsuccessful. So only in the pretrial conference of Mr. McElveen did he bring to my attention that we did do a clarification effort of this jail call. So I provided it to the defense when I realized that we had done that and it was in our possession, and I advised the defense that whichever version they wanted to publish is the version that I would go with, based on the fact that we were discovering it late.
Very well.
So there you go. She's like, you know what? We did discover late, Judge. I'll admit it again. We're not going to fight about it. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to quibble. So they can pick whichever one they want. Do they want the clearer one or do they not? Fair game. So I think we're going to deal with it maybe more tomorrow. I'm not sure, but we get to more of the recordings. Okay. And I'm going to summarize a lot of them. I'm going to read some of the transcripts and then we're going to listen to some of them together. You know, I like to do a little bit of everything depending on what people like the best. If they like just my summarizing, you're going to get a little bit of that. Do you want me to actually read the transcript? Do you see the words on the screen? You're going to get some of that. And we're going to hear Charlie's voice as much as some of you hate it and love it. But when it gets to these conversations and when you're a prosecutor and you have this many recordings, thousands of pages of words and hours of discussions between all these co-conspirators, okay? You want to pick and choose what proves your theory of the case. And I'm going to talk about a couple of different uses I think that have been A+ use by the prosecutor. The first is showing that Wendy and Charlie meddle in Wendy's life without consulting Wendy and even disagreeing with Wendy and saying they're going to basically force it on her. We've heard it in relationships. We heard it today in jobs. We've heard it with houses that she's potentially purchasing. And we've heard it with talking about Dan Markell. And if you notice, and one of the very difficult parts when everybody's like, go get Wendy, we're going to prosecute Wendy, let's get Wendy. Wendy's not in any of these sidecar situations. She's not in the Sigfredo to Katie to Charlie to Donna, Donna to Charlie to Katie Sigfredo. And if Harvey's ever involved, then it's kind of on the Donna side. But you don't hear Wendy in the vast majority of these conversations conspiring and setting this up. And that's the difficulty about connecting Wendy. But I think, number one, they meddle in Wendy's life. Number two, just what I explained, oh boy, does it line up perfectly. They're like, okay, this happens. What does Donna do? She calls Charlie. Okay, after Donna and Charlie's conversation or meeting, what happens? Charlie calls Katie. After that conversation, what happens? Katie calls Sigfredo. Okay, after that conversation, what happens? Then Katie calls Charlie back. Then Charlie calls Donna. And boom, 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 and it's going back and forth and back and forth. They did an amazing job putting that together. Another good use is using code language, code words. And why is that important? Well, the prosecution has already established innocent people don't use code words. I don't agree with that, but that's a fact that's been put before the jury. And you tell me, is this what guilty people sound like? And we're going to go through some of them and discuss some of that. Wendy doesn't comprehend how lucky she is, as they're talking about the job and what they do for her. And I'm going to read this part. I'm going to read a little quote here from Mr. Charlie Adelson. These are the types of things they're dealing with, right? And these are the types of things they're saying. So first off, you can see this is in Dolce Vida, the restaurant where they went undercover, sat near them, recorded them. This is one of the things that broke the case wide open with Charlie, right? When they were able to get a lot of this. And he says, yeah. And guess what? When the effing police show up and there's a doctor, there's an oral surgeon standing there with a dead gang member in his driveway, they're not going to come down too hard on me. And I'm not going to talk anyway. I don't know. I don't trust them. This is the kind of conversations they're having. And the jury's looking at Donna Adelson over there, who's saying, I love you, sweetie. Hi, sweetie. Can you help me with this patient? Can you help me with this Google review? Will you bring cash to buy me dinner, or should I bring cash, right? All these connections. And this is, we're going to look at some highlights and some snippets of the conversations had between all of these members that the state is proving and trying to prove are part of a conspiracy. Charlie Adelson throughout also tries to prove that he's an expert in how this works. Oh, I can say my brother did it. That's secondhand conversation. That's not admissible. They need to have fingerprints and DNA. There's no connection between me and the shooter in this case. So he knows. Why is that important? The state is setting up. If you even start to think for a second that this doesn't connect enough because of one of these reasons, I'm going to show you he knew it, and that's why he set it up like this. That's why Charlie never talked to Sigfredo. That's why Katie never talked to Donna. Donna never talked to Sigfredo. That's why he set it up like this. He's telling you his plan. Believe him. That's what the state's setting up here. He says things like, well, the next day you didn't buy a yacht. There's no way anyone would know I had anything to do with this. Well, they didn't buy a yacht, but this is why the state showed pictures of the Mercedes, the motorcycles, and the things that they did buy, and that they didn't have an income that could necessarily produce those gifts. He goes through and literally is explaining why the evidence that they're presenting in this trial would not be enough to connect Charlie Adelson to this crime. Your connection to my family is me, not my mom. How are they going to get her? LOL. I wrote the LOL. He basically also says, yeah, I would pay this, but they'll just keep coming back. We heard it when they talk about renting the house and these type of people don't go away. He says multiple times, I'd write the check. I'll write the check right now. They talk about a rental car. The prosecution points out that wasn't public knowledge, so he knows things that other people wouldn't know. And then here's another big point that the prosecution used these clips for. They used it to rebut a defense they know is coming. Don Adelson has to go with this defense. We think Charlie Adelson's going to testify. We know he went with this defense. The extortion and the double extortion. So throughout, the prosecutor a few times asked, did you hear anybody talk about extortion or blackmail? Did it sound like Charlie Adelson was getting extorted or blackmailed by McBanois, by Sigfredo? And we're going to read some of the highlights they used to prove certainly doesn't sound like somebody that's scared. Certainly doesn't sound like somebody that's angry at somebody else, that somebody's ruining their life, extorting them, stressing them out. The Raven said in the UK, entrapment and other deceptive practices used in the trial are illegal and would not have been allowed to be given in evidence. So my question for you would be, do they have a legal definition of entrapment, or do they consider all of this entrapment? Because in the United States, entrapment is also not allowed. It's an affirmative defense. But we as the defense have to prove that what the FBI or law enforcement did was in fact entrapment. You have to have that as a affirmative defense. It's not just any bump or wiretap or anything like that isn't automatically entrapment. Peter, a ton of boring family drama convos, weird Donna ASMR today. Where can I find the snippets that are evidence Donna knew before? So we'll talk about some of them. We'll talk about some of them, obviously, in an hour. I'm not going to go over every single one. I was on a federal grand jury for 2 years. Love watching the prosecution lay out the case layer by layer. That's exactly what's happening here. Peter, what I find hard to see is, how did Donna know other than Charlie needed money to deal with Gibber's issue? Can you explain to me how the law views this as far as conspiracy for M? So here's what I'll tell you. Legally speaking, they have to prove to the jury her knowledge, that she took part in this conspiracy to end Dan Markel's life. The first degree charge and the conspiracy charge, okay? And I'm going to talk through how I think the state is using some of this. But if you don't buy it and you don't think it's enough, factually speaking, that could happen to a juror. So just because I'm saying this is how they're trying to use it and how they're trying to prove it, doesn't mean they proved it that way to every single juror. Because some jurors could be like, oh no, I believe they were talking. Some jurors could say, I think they were talking about a rental house. And if they do that, then you're not proving conspiracy, right? If they're actually talking about a Yelp review, a patient, and a rental house, they're not proving conspiracy, right? So that's important. This is what the prosecutor is trying to prove. It doesn't mean they are proving it. Thank you, Susan, for gifting 5 memberships. Okay, so let's talk about some more of the highlights. Again, I love the timing. Right after leaving a restaurant with Katie, what does he do? He calls Donna. And they laid that out piece by piece. Everything's fine with my friend. You know, they talk about the blackmail. They talk about the bump. When the bump happens, Donna calls Charlie. Charlie calls Katie. Katie calls Sigfredo. Then back to Charlie. Then back to Don, or back to Katie. Then back to Charlie. Then back to Donna. They play some, fights between Sigfredo and Katie. They talk about, $65.70 using code because that's actually the phone number. And as it goes, you start to hear them say like, we shouldn't be talking on the phone. And then they'll talk on the phone for like an hour. They try to use code giving the phone number and then they just flat out give the phone number later. So it's like they got less careful, if you will, as they went throughout the process. Additionally, you'll hear them say, let's talk on WhatsApp. Let's talk in person. I'm going to call you from a landline. The jury's going to be thinking, do innocent people do that? I will tell you, sure. I think innocent people can do that. But when you have the other context and circumstantial evidence in this case, it makes them all look very, very guilty, especially the things that they're talking about. Will a jury think that it proves guilt? That's the question. That's the question I have for all of you. They talk about the rental properties. We talked about that. There's a dinner between Donna and Harvey, or Charlie and Harvey. That was where they got made. They brought the undercover cop there. He put the recorder on the table, and they think they got made. We heard from that officer earlier. Then, as a follow-up to the bump, there is a letter. We'll listen to them read that.
Yes. It says, my phone is not ringing, so you don't care about Tato and what he did for you. He knows he is fucked, and soon so will you.
Okay. So they not only did the first bump, they continue to send letters. And what is the state using to prove this? What happens every time they get a letter? Charlie talks to Donna about it. So the question asked before is like, how do you know Donna knew before? So the hatred and the motive prior to Dan Markel's death in the family law case. The grandma motion was something on the table. And again, I'm not saying that they're there, that this case is over. I'm asking you, or you're asking me, what evidence have they produced? I think these are some things they would argue as evidence they produced. The grandma motion is something that was on the table, that she was going to potentially lose unfettered rights to hang out with the kids. That was on the table. That went away. She wanted Wendy to move back with her. The only way that was going to happen if something happened to Dan. All that is prior to the crime. Then that's why the drive, the text, I'm outside your house, the washed money that somebody said, Donna Adelson's the one that washed it. Katie Mabanawa said, Donna left Charlie's house right before I got there to get the money. Donna gave him some money. She stopped there to give the money to pay for what happened right when all of this was happening the next day after the crime. Okay. So did she go to his house? Was she right outside? Is that what the hour and 6 minutes was? Did she wash the money? Do you believe Katie? Those are all questions. But Whitney, I'll talk about that at the end, Whitney, the off-topic question you had. But so that's all Donna beforehand, right during when the crime was happening. And then when all this is happening, she's not like, there's no conversations or text message or anything. It's like, Charlie, what did you do? What did you do? What are they talking about, Charlie? And when the bump happens, she's like, it has to do with you and me. And all he did was give her the newspaper clipping of Dan Markel. So I think that's what's showing her knowledge before, her actions during the conversation with Wendy Adelson when she was at the police department, and how Donna reacted to that and what she did after that call, and her conversations in the context of what she knew and when. It seems like she was as in on this as Charlie. That's my opinion. This trial is making it seem like she was as in on it as Charlie was. So there are no recordings of Wendy, correct? I don't know that there are none. I don't think they've played any yet here. I know there was a recording of her at the police station. I think they used the transcript, though. Pesky Pirouette. I'm having internal struggles. A life sentence is not the same to Donna, Charlie, Sigfredo, and Catherine. I get protecting the public from them, but the state went after the youngest first. If you want my opinion, as a lawyer who has looked at prosecuting these cases and making decisions like this, I think they went after the person they thought was the easiest to convict first. And if they convicted this one, it would be easier to convict the next, because it would have been way harder to convict Charlie without Katie and to convict Katie without Sigfredo. So that's why I think they chose to do it this way. I really don't think it had anything to do with age. And some of these might even be test cases, right? Like, if we can't convict Charlie, I don't think we're going to be able to convict Donna. Liz, how do defense lawyers decide if it's good for their clients to testify like Wendy's did? Do clients usually tell the whole truth to their lawyer, thanks. Do they usually, that's client to client dependent, whether they tell us the whole truth, number one. Number two, Wendy had to testify. She was subpoenaed and given immunity. She was forced to testify. So her lawyer couldn't have said, I'm advising you not to testify. He said she would have taken the fifth if she could have, but she's not allowed to under these circumstances. All right, let's get back to some more highlights from today. So after that letter on the 23rd, they jump right to an April 25th conversation between Charlie and Katie. They meet up, so there's no surveillance. After Katie and Charlie meet up, who does Charlie call? Donna. Then Donna calls June with Charlie. Then Katie texts Sigfredo. We need to talk. Sigfredo's like, deal with your homies yourself. Charlie calls his mom, says, I need to distance myself. Again, sounding guilty, conscious of guilt potentially. Donna says, as long as you tell me you're taking care of it, then that's fine with me. He says, I'm taking care of it. Then another thing, Charlie being this mastermind and knowing how crimes work and undercover agents work, they start talking about what would this bump and this undercover agent sound like if he was actually a gang member? Is he making threats? Is he too nice? What did he look like? Was he wearing a hat? Is there a beard? Things like that. They play the call between the undercover agent and Donna. We're gonna listen to another one later. Within 20 minutes of that call, who does Donna call? Charlie. So it goes both ways. It's not just Charlie calling Donna. Donna calls Charlie. Charlie calls Donna. Katie calls Charlie. Charlie calls Katie. Sigfredo doesn't really reach out to Katie much. Charlie's pushing Katie like, hey, you better figure this out because it's going to be on you. And a lot of these, again, are to prove Katie wasn't extorting Charlie. Charlie wasn't scared of Katie. There was no issue there. So when they bring that BS to you later, the jury already is seeing they're in cahoots. He was playing flirtatious phone calls between Charlie and Katie, getting them gifts for Katie and for Sigfredo and all this stuff. So the BS Charlie, this is how the state's positioning it. The BS Charlie's about to sling later that Donna's going to have to adopt, that they were extorted and they were so scared and it was Katie and Sigfredo and the gang members doing this for me. Nah. That's what the state's trying to set him up. I think the way these clips were presented, it's a modern day, even though this was, a lot of this was back then, but modern day, this case could be in a legal dictionary next to the definition of conspiracy. You get smarter, not too smart, or you might not get caught. But if you get caught like this and a bunch of them getting convicted, you think you're smart, you're not smart enough. I've had cases literally where my client is talking to the undercover agent saying, hey, is your car bugged? But meanwhile, it's like a video and audio of my client. He's like, is your car bugged? I'm really paranoid. I don't want to do this. We can't have this happen. I have one case. It's the same case actually where he was being tailed by an undercover agent. He gets to a Sun Pass or whatever, a toll booth. He has no money. So what does he do? He runs to the car behind him to ask for the 50-cent toll. And the undercover agents give my client $2 to pay the toll so he can keep driving, so they can keep following him, right? So this is how it works. They talk about it. They know it's possible. They think they can get away with it. They think they're too smart. They talk in code. And that's how the state is setting this up. So they're discussing it. They think it's an informant. They're not going to get tricked. They're going to outsmart the informant. And we're going to listen now to a clip here. This is a chunk kind of just to give you an example again of how the state is using this, what it sounded like. We're not going to listen to, 7 hours of it today, but I did want to listen to a clip at least to give everybody a taste of exactly what this is like.
I want the money for absolutely everything. I already spoke to my attorney. There will be a lawsuit filed, a board complaint filed before the end of this week if I'm not able to pick up that check. You understand? And listen, the work was fine. Over half the work took. What do you think I did? I wrote the check.
So he's talking about other situations or code for this. And he's like, what do you think I did? I wrote the check. Talking about a guy who can throw money at problems and make them go away, right? If I'm the state, I'm thinking of all this in my closing argument, and you can explain just how guilty everybody is, and they're going to come up and talk about, see him in the orange jumpsuit. And she is, I'm pointing to Donna Adelson, she is as in on this as anybody else that's already been convicted.
Accusation, that's right. So, but I'm thinking to myself, these people aren't looking for a check. They're not.
These people aren't looking for a check. They're not. And you know how smart he's being, and he's figuring it out that it's either a private investigator or an informant. What does that make you think if you're a juror? He's figured it out. So he's not going to give them what they want, which is more information. Kevin, thank you. Makes sense to me now. Appreciate you as always. Got lost because all these calls, taps, if I feel that way, hope they make sure to remind the jury. Kevin, you make a great point. That's why I love this so much. I love this YouTube discussion that we all get to have together so much, because nobody's sitting there explaining this to the jury the way I'm explaining it to you. And the jurors don't have the benefit that I've had to watching clips of Katie McBano's trial, the entirety of Charlie Adelson's trial, and following Donna Adelson's trial before the trial even happened. And being aware of this, reading the news articles shocked the year after I graduated from Florida State. They don't have all of that. So you do have to be careful. And they're making jokes, like the judge and the prosecutor making jokes about how boring this is. It's like, you got to be careful if you're the state. Sleuthy said, wait till the jury finds out you tried to flee to Vietnam and research non-extradition. Yeah, we haven't even gotten there yet. Talk about consciousness of guilt. But even without that, right? Because they convicted Charlie without that. So we're gonna wait till they get there. But that's why, a lot of us know what's coming and we're confident of how this is all going to turn out. But the jury doesn't know that yet, theoretically.
What do they want you to do? Well, what's the one thing they want? Well, you know what they want. I mean, there's nothing they want to do. I got it, but they don't know that. So what do you think the one thing they want? They want everybody to start.
They're barking up the wrong tree. And again, if a juror believes this, that Donna's like, we don't know anything. I don't know why they're coming after us. Charlie's like, exactly. We did nothing wrong. They want information. We don't have it. So he's saying all the right things. The problem with him saying all the right things, and I think some jurors' minds, is going to be, you just figured out there might be an informant. We know you think stuff might be bugged. We know you're talking in code. So what's to make us think you're not just saying all the right things right now? Another juror could think, hey, this proves innocence. These people don't know what's going on. These people have no information. If they had information, they would just give it to these people. They're explaining to us they don't know what's going on.
They want you to hand deliver yourself because they think you know something, but they want you to
They want you to hand deliver yourself because they think you know something.
Yourself and start talking as much as you can when you walk in, because otherwise, if they were to just come to you tomorrow and say, they get the same result, but I'm saying, if the cops were to come to you tomorrow and say, Donna, come down to the station with us, we need to talk to you. We'd be like, I don't need this aggravation. Give me your business card. If I can help you or hear anything, I absolutely will. Right? That's what the answer is. But if you go ahead and you make it seem like, you're being extorted or blackmailed or something crazy like that, then what are you going to do? You're going to run down there and start talking to yourself. Exactly.
It's so clever of them.
You know what that?
It's clever of them.
Of course, these are not, first of all, this is not someone who started doing this yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not, this is not someone who's dumb. This is someone who's super smart. And they know, listen, a lot of times this is what goes on. There's someone comes, but it's real odd that it's a year. The amount of time that's passed is insane. I mean, it would be like having a dental office and be like, I need to pay on a case from 4 years ago. Let me turn over the collection. And 4 years ago, how do you not realize that you?
It's kind of funny, just the examples that he's given. All right, some good comments here I want to talk about. As I'm going to break it up a little so we don't just get too bored listening to the transcript. But I think this one is indicative of a lot of different things. Number one, definitely, Carl said, definitely a ton of listening and discussing how it all connects. But if they can't utilize the text, then I would feel overwhelmed. They can. So this is playing for them. So they can read and or listen, whatever they feel better. Catherine said, agree, 4 cats. I read it faster. Me too. Multiple times today, I was like, screw it. I can't listen to this anymore. I just turned off the recording and then did my work. And when I had a break, I was like, I'm just going to read here. And I'm just going to fly through reading this. Lauren said, I didn't know much about this case prior to watching the current trial. I'm still a little scared to say, don't be scared to say it. Here, I want to hear this. I want to know why. But so far, I'm seeing tons of evidence that Donna knew after. I'm not sure she knew beforehand. So here's my question to you, Lauren. If we were on the jury together and I was like, oh, she's so guilty, you have to know, I would ask you, do you believe they proved that she was at Charlie Adelson's house based on the text message, the cell phone location data, Katie McBanawa so far, right? We're not done, but that's so far what they have. And if you don't believe those three things that put Donna at the house the day after all this happened to pay for what just happened the day before, I think you have to deny that. You have to dismiss that. You have to say, I don't believe that to be reliable evidence. And then I see where you're coming from. But they have presented some evidence. Whether or not it's enough is going to be juror to juror. Question, Peter, if you could have a 2-minute conversation with Georgia over the weekend, what would you say she could do a little better to bring us home? So it's so funny. I tried to set this up, because I'm a professional podcaster now. And I was like, ooh, watch me set this one up. I read this to say, if I could have a conversation with George, meaning my dad, over the weekend, what would we talk about? And I was like, I'm going to have more than a 2-minute conversation with my dad. I just might about this case. And it might just come out this weekend, our little discussion on it, if you want his take on it. But I'll go ahead and answer this question now. If I was going to have a conversation with Georgia, she knows what she's doing. First off, she knows this case way better than I have. She's convicted multiple people trying this case. I think this is the 4th trial she's having. So she doesn't need my advice. If I was going to give unsolicited advice to her, I would say, I would have asked the judge if I could break this up. I don't know if she wants to. I would break this up into multiple days. And I would play the stuff about the employment records. Then I'd bring in the Adelson employment people. I would play the stuff about the, him flirting with Catherine McBanawa and, very clearly not extortion right before I called Charlie Adelson. So I might use the clips a little bit differently. And I think that you should be allowed to, and I think you would be allowed to in Florida. So maybe but that kind of changes the presentation of the case. That makes it a little more laborious, bringing him back over and over again. So I think that's just a pure strategy difference, but I would really want to highlight the purpose of why I'm playing every single clip I'm playing. So nobody says what some of you guys said, like Adelson family drama. Why are they even playing this? That I would try to kind of give a lot of context to the clips as much as I could. The Raven, in the UK, intercept cannot be used as evidence. Okay, interesting. Thank you, The Raven. I love hearing the differences in all of our legal systems. All right, let's listen to some more of this clip.
Paid on big cases this 4 years ago. I mean, none of it makes any sense. I mean, that's why I think it's more that without the depth, there's a lack of threats. I mean, there's no threats. I mean, soon you'll be fucked. What does that mean? Someone's gonna write a bad review on Google tomorrow? I mean, it's almost like they were afraid to say that they're gonna break your, like, almost like they can't go in that, they can't do that, because once they do that, they're gonna cross lines that they themselves can't cross. So, you know what I'm saying?
I just hope they don't go involved with Wendy.
Well, listen, if they do, they bothered us enough. If they bother anymore, they're not part of this. Go to police. They want to go to police too. I mean, and that's the other thing too. Is like,
and again, this clip can be used for multiple reasons, which is why I picked it. Right? Definitely not double extortion. Donna and Charlie definitely know what's going on. The touching of the sidecar, the sidecars here, and they don't seem very afraid. And I don't know if this is the clip, but in one of the clips, he's like, are they really going to try to extort and try to muscle and do this to people that they know can take somebody out or do what they say we did? Meaning, if we took out Dan Markell, do you really want to mess with us? Maybe we'll take you out.
When I spoke to him, he said, you don't say anything because the last thing you want to do is aggravate Wendy.
well, I don't want to scare her.
I don't
I mean, she was scared from day one. She's finally over being scared. And
she heard that she would be beside herself.
absolutely. And the thing is, as long as that.
She would be absolutely beside herself. So they talk about Wendy and Harvey multiple times throughout. That to me clearly shows Wendy doesn't know much of anything, but Harvey doesn't know a lot too. They're like, oh, I'm glad Dad wasn't there. Dad would have freaked out if he would have seen this. There were multiple clips with that as well, which is why I think, it's getting a little harder each time. Sigfredo was the easiest. Katie was easier than Charlie. Charlie is easier than Donna. Donna's easier than Harvey, and I think Harvey's easier than Wendy. But again, it gets a little harder each time as well.
Everybody handles every situation differently. It's like somebody has a death in the family, and if they don't act devastated and everything else, well, It doesn't mean that they have to be responsible for it. No, it means everybody handles tragedy differently or confrontation. I mean, some people, it's like fight or flight. I mean, some people are confrontational, some people have a nice day, some people just turn their back and walk away, some people ignore you. You get, and none of them, and who's to say what's right and who's to say what's wrong?
No, nothing. Everybody's different.
There is nothing,
But that's what my original feeling, and the police, but that's, we got to protect them.
yeah, I don't want Wendy to then get stressed and not gonna worry about her safety.
We've got to protect Wendy. She will be devastated.
So,
I'm Wendy's lawyers. There's a ton in these recordings I could use in my defense.
Like I said, if you do some hard, I don't want her to be upset. Don't see what it is, what it is, it's just,
well, it's funny, I called Katie and I said to her, listen, I said, you're the only Katie I know, I know of other Katies, but I've known you a long time, I don't know if they keep referencing you and I told her, so if I'm wrong, and so they're referencing somebody else, if it is a common last name or common first name, and so they didn't tell me last name, and I said, if you're the wrong person, then I feel horrible that they're trying to bring you into this or whatever. But she told me she had somebody call, and the voicemail wasn't set up before, and then she called a couple times actually. She locked her number, she called a couple times, and then it was on and then the voicemail was set up, and it was in Spanish. So she has a friend of hers who left a message for that person. For that person to, I think it was a guy that she had called. I don't know for sure, but I think the guy was not very happy and let the person know it on their voicemail and basically told them on the voicemail, basically you need to stop running your mouth or you're going to be having a very, 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 very big problem, and ask that person to give them a call. That's kind of the message I got this afternoon. And supposedly her friend was very angry, very, very angry. And the voicemail was Spanish.
And because they have each call one right after the next, we know when they're talking about Sigfredo, we know when they're talking about Katie, we know when they're talking about the undercover agent.
The person spoke to them in Spanish. She basically told the person that what they got coming to them and just call back. The thing they have to go to work with them. So that's what I heard this afternoon. So, but it's definitely, when I spoke to the person, it definitely had a New York accent.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it's not. And then that person was the same voice on the voicemail. So I think that it's somebody playing games and fishing. Because it's the
Somebody playing games and fishing, right? What are they fishing for?
same guy, and it's not, and the person's doing an awful bad job of hiding who they are. You gotta remember something too. Somebody's gonna do something. When they come to you, they're gonna come to you with hat glass. They don't want you to see who they are. The whole thing that I told you before, it doesn't have to, if you look at, there's 15 different things from the language.
Here's all his reasons. He's like, I figured it out. I've made them. It's either undercover or a private investigator or something. This is not a real threat.
There's no threats. The fact that the person's using devices that they can easily be traced to. The fact that the person's language, the last thing they said to me was do the right thing. That is to do the right thing. What is this, like a stay in school speech? Do the right thing. The person wasn't angry. I mean, they were pretty calm talking to me. I was real nice to them, and I said, listen, the truth is, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. What's this about? But I don't, I think it's a bunch of nonsense, and I don't want to scare Wendy. If they do approach her, then at that point, that's when she's
Okay. Let me let you go work out.
I thought you find that interesting.
Yeah.
You find it a little interesting or not really?
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's not, someone telling you to do the right thing, that's when someone's appealing to your sensitive, like, when someone's saying do the right thing, they say, come on, help me out.
When someone's saying do the right thing, it's like, come on, help me out. Ashley said, have there been any updates on how long this trial is going to last? I thought it was 2 to 3 weeks to start. It really seems like we're ahead of schedule. So I would say maybe 2 weeks. Maybe it bleeds over into the 3rd week because next week we miss Monday. So my guess would be it's not going to end next week, but the following week. Kim, I don't remember half of these wiretaps in Charlie's trial or the other trials. I remember a lot of them from Charlie's trial. I was thinking Wendy was on trial, but now I'm starting to see a whole lot more Donna, Charlie, and Catherine. Yeah, this is how it was going to build, which is why I was making a big deal the first couple of days. Like, where's Donna? Where's Donna? And the jury might be thinking that. And I think now they're saying, there's Donna. There's Donna. Hey, Peter, will the jury get these transcripts in the jury room when they deliberate? I want to listen to see if they're going back. Usually the answer would be no. Usually the videos and the audio, that's the evidence. That's what they can review. But then sometimes they can come out and re-review it if they want to. And courts may allow the transcript to get played, but usually not because the transcript is not actually evidence. But I don't know if something's different happening in this trial.
People, I mean, if they are who they say they are, they don't appeal to your good nature and say, come on, help me out. They want to get dialogue going. And I told them, I'm like, we don't help anybody out that I know of. Because if we're not helping anyone out, they're pretty much a loss of what these.
I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit here because I do want to hear kind of the end of this conversation.
You get the investigation going, you stir the pot of soup, and you see what comes up on the bottom. That's what you on top. Well, if they're doing, listen, if that's what it is, they're doing, listen, you got to put yourself on the other side. If this is your family.
You've got to put yourself on the other side. The other side of what? Who and what's the other side? And what are you putting yourself on? And he said, if this was your family, you wouldn't hire a private investigator?
Member, you wouldn't hire a private investigator? And you hire someone or whatever you're trying to do, if someone saying, hey, let's see, listen, they got theories out there.
Listen, they've got their theories out there. This is probably one of their theories, is that someone in our family paid for something to be done, right? Sounds like an interesting theory coming from Charlie Adelson's mouth while Donna's like, yeah, you're right. I get what you're saying. This is Donna and Charlie talking. And listen to what he says here. Ooh, our likes are lacking, KAS. Come on, let's get those likes up.
Okay, this is probably one of their theories, that someone in our family paid for something to be done, right? So if they paid, it would make sense that someone's come back from one. So let's either make up some sense or make up some names or
Charlie's got it all figured out here.
or do something like that and see if all of a sudden it's, and listen, it's, does it either A, bring them into the police so they can sit down, tell us what they know, which is fine, tell them what they know, or you go ahead and they all show up to claim the prize. They didn't have to go out and kick doors down, they all showed up. It was really funny, it was like 90 people they worked up. So listen, it's a good idea, I just think they're barking up the wrong tree. But if they go to Wendy's,
Marking up the wrong tree, and Donna's like, well, I know they are. Again, innocent. Sound like innocent people, not guilty people there.
this is like, it's not stressing her out, and she'll be the first one to go to the FBI.
Wendy will be the first one to go to the FBI if they go to her and stress her out. Does that make her sound guilty? Because they didn't go to the FBI. They didn't pay. They didn't call the cops for help. This is definitely not double extortion or whatever Charlie's going with. All right, so that's the end of that clip. Then they discuss another bump from the FBI with texts, and clearly Donna, Katie, and Charlie that are involved here. They're trying to figure all this out together. Sigfredo and Harvey are mixed in a little bit. And then eventually Donna decides, you know what? I'm going to call the undercover agent and prove my innocence, right? I can't tell you how many of my clients think they can call the cops, talk their way out of it, make the cops like them, get on cops' good side. Here's Donna Adelson's attempt at that. Tell me what you think. Did it work?
This is Mrs. Adelson. Is this,
She starts out, this is Mrs. Adelson. So we all know who it is now.
look, Sammy, okay, my grandchildren had my phone before, so, my.
Can you Adelson?
I'm Mrs. Adelson. My-
Yes, yes.
My grandchildren
Yes.
had my phone before, so that's, and I just saw that you called.
Oh, okay.
I was,
You left a message on my voicemail.
right, I did.
No.
This is my problem. You approached me on Alton Road. You handed me an article from the newspaper about my ex-son-in-law. You told me I need to call you and help your friend who is in prison. Now, at the time you did that, I didn't understand what you were talking about. I didn't call you back. Then you mail me a threatening letter. Then you send me a text message to my phone that says I'm not taking you seriously. So I am taking you seriously, and I really want you to listen to me.
I'm listening.
I have to tell you, I mean, this is important. I've been so stressed out. I have spoken to 10 or 12 people who are close friends of mine, telling them about this and basically picking their brains and asking them what I should do, because I don't know your friend who is in jail. You mentioned a name. I don't even know his name. I never spoke to him. I don't know what he looks like. I've never met him. I'm sorry your friend's in jail, but I don't know what that has to do with me.
You know exactly what it has to do with. You know exactly what. Listen to me carefully. Listen to me. You just got to listen to me.
You need to
You
ask
gotta-
your
no.
friend who this person looks like, what their name is, something, because I know there's a big reward out there, and if you need money for your friend, that's the way to get it. I mean, I'm asking you nicely. I don't know who he is. I am out of the loop. It is not me. If I can help, I would help. I mean, that's what.
Just like I told you, listen to me. Just like I told you that day, we know that your family had a problem up north. We know that problem was taken care of about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And we know that Katie has been taken care of and has been taken care of. Now my brother in jail, we were in Broward together. He told me the whole thing, and he hasn't been taken care of.
I don't think this guy's very convincing, by the way, so I do understand how they figured it out, but it still worked, in my opinion. The bump worked. K. Luck said, I agree that she knew after the fact beyond a reasonable doubt. I was more convinced yesterday that she knew before than I am today. And again, that's why the evidence being presented, the entire trial, is what the jury makes their decision on. So I just want to know why, always. Like, what made you think about it yesterday and what made you change your mind today? People that are not all the way to beyond a reasonable doubt, tell me why. Some people that are guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, tell me why. What did it for you, right? What pushed you over the edge as a juror? That's what I love hearing and reading from you guys.
You know. Now, all that's being asked for is 5K. That's all we're asking for is for 5K. And he told me everything, and I know everything. I know who's involved. I know everything, and I'll get the 100K for myself.
You know,
All I have is to send a 5K. Everybody knows what's going on.
I don't, you're saying everyone knows. I know I lost my ex-son-in-law. I did not have anything to do with it. That's why I said, ask him what.
That's what my brother Tato told me. He told me everything when we were in jail. He told me everything and who was involved. I know everything.
Well, I don't. That's the problem. I'm telling you, it's not me. It's not me. I've had a year of aggravation, a year and a half of aggravation over this. My daughter, my grandchildren. It is not me. And when I asked my friends, what do they think? They said, well, this person needs to get a description of you because of what you look like, or it's not me. I don't know who caused it. It wasn't me. I mean, I don't know.
I'll tell you, just like that day when I talked to you, this is not going away. This is not going to go away. The Tato told me everything. He wasn't being taken care of. He needed the 5K. Send 5K. That's all we were asking for. Don't do that.
I don't know who Sato is. You don't understand.
We know you don't know who Tato is, but you know who Katie is. And you know the contacts Katie has. And she has, listen to me, let's stop fucking around. Okay? You know who Katie is. And you know that Katie has somebody that knows Tato. And they took care of a problem for you people. That's just the bottom line. The bottom line is, you know who the fuck Katie is.
Look, I don't.
I no more than Mr. No, I'm not fucking around with you. You know who Katie is. You know that they took care of Katie and her people. Nobody's taking care of Tato. I know you don't know who Tato is.
No,
But we know who all of you are. And this ain't going away.
you know what?
So I can give you you want then the 5K?
What do you guys think that don't have experience like undercover cops and wiretapping and hearing things like this? When you hear this conversation, what do you think? Because I guarantee there are some people sitting on the jury that are like, oh crap, this is what it sounds like in real life. This is what an undercover cop does. They probably immediately like the undercover cop. They think it's cool. They think he's got him. They think she's lying. You know, that's some of the normal thoughts I think some jurors have. So what do you guys think? People are saying this sounds like a cop. I tend to agree, but I don't know if it's just because obviously my experience, but you guys being so into true crime and you know, understanding a lot more about this than maybe your average juror would. But I love to read your thoughts on this.
Here's what you need to do. You need to go and.
Don't tell me what to do. I know what to do and I'm doing it.
You're looking for money. Get $100,000 or whatever whatever the reward is. It isn't me. You have got the wrong person. That's why I said ask your friends.
Donna Adelson.
Yes, I am. Yes,
Donna Adelson. That's what he said.
I am.
Well, I know. We know who's involved in all this.
She sounds pretty innocent to me on this call, right? If we didn't have anything else and you just read this call, what would you think? She sounds pretty innocent to me. But you guys tell me. I was thinking the same thing, Sleuthy, actually.
This is not making any sense. I mean, if you want the money, you should get it from the police. They can give you a whole lot more than you're asking me for money for someone. I can't do this. I have had too much stress and too much aggravation from this, and I don't know what you are talking about. I just don't know. I just don't know.
Good. I think you should talk to Katie. Talk to people that are involved in this. You'll know. You know what's going on.
That's why I'm.
You can tell me. You know, Adelson, you can tell me all you fucking want, but I know you know. Because I know, because I heard, when I was locked up in Broward with my brother, he told me everything. Everything. He told me everything. I just wanted to take care of him because fucking Katie was being taken care of with her fucking poodle.
I just think instead of asking me, you should.
All right. That was basically the call. SN, I apologize. I hate doing this, but my answer is going to be no. Can you please summarize what was discovered on the recorded call in the restaurant with Harvey and Charlie? I couldn't hear it. Any evidence? That was one that I was like, you got me. Your guess is as good as mine. Maybe somebody in the chat has a good understanding of what was it, but I don't care if there was a transcript with that or what. I couldn't make any of it out myself. It was way too difficult. I didn't get anything from it from my perspective. Okay, then guess what? After this call, she calls Charlie, tells him about the conversation. Charlie's like, did he make any threats? She's like, not really. Then Charlie calls Katie, tells her about the conversation. They basically just called their bluff and ended the operation there because the undercover agent knew what was going on. They've been made. But to me, that's great evidence for the conspiracy. It's like, oh, I'm innocent. Hung up. Charlie, I got him. Yeah, innocent. Did he threaten you? No. Charlie hangs up, calls Katie. Katie, all right, we're all good. She talked to him, said she was innocent. Exactly how you'd expect after a conspiracy. And then the prosecutor asks some questions about whether or not how the Adelsons seemed when they found out they're being investigated here. Crisis averted. Wait, honey, crisis averted. But I got to tell you, you just can't, Mom, you cannot, now that you know what it is, you cannot get upset. You can't let patients bother you.
What are you, crisis averted? Yeah. So I gotta tell you, you just can't, cannot. Now that you know this, you cannot get upset. You can't let patients bother you.
No. And I also know exactly what I'm doing. Exactly what the state is for.
I also know exactly what I'm doing, you know?
All the time. You understand. That's why.
Donna saying I know exactly what I'm doing. Let's not forget that, right? Babs, Peter, thanks for the recap. Are you going to FSU this weekend? We will be there. So we need to know if I should be on the lookout. Full disclosure, Bama fan. Absolutely not, Babs. I want nothing to do with that. Way too miserable walking into the season after last season. I don't have high hopes. I will be watching every second of it from my TV, hoping for the best, expecting the worst.
That's allowed to come to the patient's father. She said, oh, here's the bad bit. Yeah, no, we got it. Very good.
All right, my love, you have a nice evening. Please take me to dinner today. Okay, okay, please. Okay.
So upon learning that they're being investigated for murder, how did they react to that?
They seem pretty happy about it.
Really happy about it.
Counsel testifying, leading, objection sustained.
Sustained. Members of the jury are to disregard the last answer.
And was it the gist of how you got made that the undercover wasn't nasty enough?
Right.
It's not done like.
Among other things, but yes, that was one of the reasons why. And we're going to listen to kind of the next steps that they took as well. We're almost done, but we are at an hour. Some minor overtime today. So if you guys haven't hit the like button, you know what to do.
Like that, you got to have a beard and a hat and glasses, and you got to make threats and all that kind of thing, right?
Correct.
After the wire gets made, it's kind of business as usual, right? Back to Wendy and her love life, that sort of thing.
For them, yes.
Were any more checks issued by the defendant to Catherine Magbanua after the wire got made?
I believe that's when they stopped. If I'm not mistaken. I have to go back and look though.
May of 2016 is when they stopped, right?
It was May of 2016, correct?
And after you came off the wire, was there a time when law enforcement went into the Adelson Institute?
There was.
Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, myself and my partner, Investigator Ice with TPD, went into the Adelson Institute with a subpoena requesting Catherine McMahon's employment records. And we began speaking with the front desk.
Right.
About
Was
that.
Catherine Magbanua there working?
No, she was not.
Did you ever uncover any evidence of Magbanua working for that business?
No, the only thing they ever provided us was basically a list of the checks that we already knew about.
All right. What
So they went for her employment records, and there were no employment records, just records of them paying her, which they knew about. Kay said the last clip made me think she didn't know till after. Okay. Yeah, we'll keep track, right? Keep track of what makes you think what. And as we continue through the case, I love to continue to hear about it.
was a phone call captured from that business during the time that you were present in there trying to serve this subpoena and get these employment records?
Yes, one of the employees called Charlie Adelson while we were there. She walked to the back and called him and it was captured on the wire.
All right. At this time, I'd ask to move into evidence states exhibit 100, Your Honor.
Any objection? States 100 is admitted.
Permission to publish, Your Honor.
Hey,
And now this is Charlie talking to his employment at the Adelson Institute. And it's like, this is a little sketchy. Four cats. I always try to bring the energy, right? That's something we can control. Doesn't cost anything to bring energy, right?
Hey there, FBI is asking for a record for Katie.
for what?
That she works here?
I wouldn't, give anything.
Yeah, and then
I don't know.
the ex, did she work out? Like, yes, she works here, but I don't know what he's doing. Doesn't matter who sent her.
Did she work here? He's like,
Yeah.
Do me a favor. I'm not there right now,
Uh-huh,
and I'm in surgery.
uh-huh.
Well, it's not my office. It's my dad's office,
Uh-huh.
so I can't give anything out.
Right.
I mean,
not my office, it's my dad's office. That's why they proved that earlier. And so I can't give anything out. It's not your office. You can't give anything out.
I don't have access to it. I don't know where anything is.
Okay.
So you don't have access to anything.
So,
So
I don't know anything yet either.
yeah, so I would do this. I would not speak to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I would not speak to anybody. So he's giving her some legal advice there. If I was her, I'd be like, uh-oh, this doesn't sound good.
I mean, you can do whatever you want, but it's my dad's office,
Yeah,
so I don't have access to any of that stuff.
okay.
So you can talk to my dad, and I'm sure they'll be able to get whatever they want from them.
Okay, understand.
So putting it in a dad's court, trying to delay, trying to not give something over and not look bad. Kathy Lynn said, thanks, Peter and chat. You all make a boring court day more lively. Appreciate you all. Yeah, there's definitely snippets and highlights to this. And I do wonder, and I appreciate you guys so much for telling me what you think. What is the jury picking up and what are they not picking up? Are their eyes glazing over? The jokes and stuff that's being made in the courtroom made me think it feels boring in there too. It's tough. It was definitely not the most exciting day, but to me, still a very, very important day of evidence, which if you're the state, if you're the defense, you want the jury falling asleep while these are being played, right? So if you're the state, you got to make sure you break it up just enough.
So if I had it, I mean, if you can talk to whoever you want, I think they don't want it, but,
No, you know, we're gonna do whatever you say.
yeah, I mean, no, I mean, I'm not, I should say I'm talking. Talk to whoever I'm planning you want to talk to, but it's not my office, and it's not your office.
Right.
So we don't have records to give them, and I don't have records to give them, so I'm sure they'll be able to help them out in any way, any way they can.
Okay, so that's what I thought.
Tell them that it's not, I mean, it's not my office, the office was sold back to my dad, actually, a long time ago. So tell them that so actually you're talking to the wrong doctor.
Right.
So what you need to do is tell them that you will get in contact. So tell them, it's not your office. You
So
should do that,
that's
right?
not, yeah, that's within 20
Not my office, not your office, so we shouldn't give them anything.
days of court statute, provide a bill of cause, with reason.
Are they there now, or are they?
You're there, but you know, I'm in the back, they're just waiting for you to come back.
Oh, they want records?
Yeah.
Do me a favor, I'm gonna call you from the landline on your cell phone,
Okay.
okay?
Okay.
During the surveillance of Catherine Magbanua, did law enforcement ever observe her to physically go to the Adelson Institute?
No, we did not.
And she later admitted that she did not do anything to earn those checks that she received, right?
That's correct. She did admit that.
And in at least
So one other thing I want to point out, well, let's finish this clip first.
this call, whose office does Charlie Adelson say the Adelson Institute belongs to?
He says it says it's his dad's
And
office.
has been for a long time, right?
Correct.
And that was said on what date? June 1st of 16, is that right?
Yes.
All right, now before we do this,
All right. So that's the last clip that we're going to play from today. A couple things I want you to remember from earlier on in the trial. Number one, the testimony from multiple witnesses that Charlie didn't really care about Wendy's love life, dating life. Charlie didn't care if she relocated or not. Charlie didn't care as much about Dan. Donna cared. Donna wanted it. It was Donna's life's mission. Donna was involved in the family law case. Donna was meddling in Wendy's life. Donna was controlling. Donna was the matriarch. The reason the state wanted to set that up earlier is because when all this is happening, and you're supposed to know Charlie's a playboy, he likes his, jet skis and whatever, and his girls. Donna's the one that cares about Wendy so much and about the kids so much. So who do you think wanted this to happen? Who had the motive to take out this hit and order the code red? They want the jury to think Donna. Donna, the prima donna. That's what they want the jury to think, okay? So that's important from earlier on. Secondly, they put Catherine Magbanua on earlier in her orange jumpsuit. She admitted to being part of this conspiracy, to setting it up for Charlie, knowing Charlie was talking to Donna, but really only connecting Charlie. But she admitted it. She's in on it. She knows about it. So you have that context as the jury when you're hearing Catherine Magbanua on these calls, saying the same exact thing, using the same exact code, knowing exactly what Charlie's talking about, what Donna's talking about. Every time anything happens, she's getting a call. She's talking about rental property. She's giving out the phone number. She's talking to Sigfredo. She's talking about the undercover, taking care of it, getting mad. He's really pissing me off. I'm going to go get him. He thinks he's going to get me. So don't forget, Katie, who's on these calls, the jig is up with her. She doesn't maintain this conspiracy and the extortion and all this crap. She does maintain the conspiracy, not the extortion and the blackmail and that they didn't know. So we can't forget that, because that's layering evidence on top of each other. That's building blocks of a house. That's the puzzle pieces. I like Georgia, but she smirks after she testifies and gets objected to. Is the repeated testifying on purpose? I think she's trying to highlight certain things, but I do agree. You have to be careful about how much you really let go with like sarcasm and saying certain things, because it can turn certain jurors off. Thoughts? Donna didn't know about the hit prior to its happening. I think the weeks, months following, Charlie told her about it. He talks, then she felt involved. It could explain all her behavior. So I think the state has presented things before that, long before that, right? With her motive before, interactions before, the time of the crime actually occurring. Was she at Charlie's house giving him money to pay? Those are things the jury has to flesh out whether or not they believe. Ashley, I know they told the jury only the calls were evidence, not the transcripts, but you really think that's realistic? So yes, the transcripts help you, but the calls are all the only thing that go back into evidence. She paid Catherine, yes. It's like a demonstrative aid, by the way. So like if I put up a poster or a chart or whatever, that's not evidence. It's a demonstrative aid to help the evidence be easier for you to understand. She paid Catherine, yes, after the fact. She wanted to pay the guy off the next day. Yes, she was protecting her son. I think Charlie takes charge alpha, did it without them knowing. I mean, paying the next day is not usually accessory after the fact. That's usually you're involved in this conspiracy. Norman's dad, is that an AP Royal Oak that I see? No, it is not. No, but it's my new watch that I got in Greece for my anniversary. It was very fun to get that there. Whitney Renee. Peter, thoughts on the Micah Parsons trade from the Cowboys to the Packers? I think it's like 2 first-round picks plus a player. Outstanding trade for the Packers. You got to get the best players, some of the best players of all time at their position, like Micah Parsons. You got to take that swing. 2 first-round picks, could be studs, could be nothing. How many first-round picks busts, right? What are the percentages of hits? And how many of them become Micah Parsons? Almost 0. Love it for the Packers. They're all in, pushing forward. I don't really know what this means for the Cowboys because it feels like they're all in, right? They're not like a young up-and-coming team, so I don't really know what they're doing. We'll have to wait and see. But Jerry Jones, A-plus performance in Landman. What did you guys think if any of you saw that? All right, that's all I got for today, folks. Tomorrow, what I think I'm going to do, I think I'm going to do a reaction to the Karen Reed, Alan Jackson interview with Howie Carr. And then I think Saturday morning, we're going to do a live on the Adelson trial, recapping Friday. So I think we're going to do a Saturday morning live. Grab your coffee, hang out, wake up together, and start our weekend right. Did you get that Greek watch tax special? Yeah, you know it. That's what's so great about buying things overseas. You know, that's what was so fun about it. It was just a very fun thing to do for our anniversary. Okay, that's all I got. Till next time, I am out of here. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, X, Facebook, and TikTok. And don't forget to check out the Lawyer You Know podcast featuring new episodes every week. And if you have a case that you want to personally talk to us about in your life, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, truck accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, The Lawyer You Know.